you're about to see is an unreleased nerd video from November 2006. Now, after I did my chronologically confused video about the bad movie and video game sequel titles, I thought it might be funny to do one on the Zelda timeline. Now, the Zelda timeline has been the subject of debate, and Game Trailers already did their own retrospective on it. But what I wanted to do was do it my own style, go all like angry nerd on it. But in the long run, it really didn't turn out that angry. It was kind of hard to find things about Zelda to get mad about, without really forcing it. So I held off on releasing it for a while, and some new images were added in later. But now I think that the fans should see it. You want to see it, right? Yeah? So just keep in mind, Phantom Hourglass wasn't out yet. Twilight Princess was brand new. The anger level's a little lacking in this one. And most important, just don't take it too seriously. Enjoy. I want to bring you back to The Legend of Zelda. This game was released in 1986 in Japan and 1987 in the US. At that time, it was the biggest, most epic game ever. It was more than a game, it was an adventure. It captured our imaginations and immersed us into the fantasy world of Hyrule. Link, Princess Zelda, the evil Ganon, and the Triforce would become beloved Nintendo icons for generations to come. There is a sequel to this game, released the following year, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. But never would we have guessed that this would be the only direct sequel to come, for the Zelda timeline will go backward, twist, split, or do anything but go straight forward. This left fans everywhere debating on what order the stories in the games take place. And back when Zelda started, nobody would have imagined the idea of such a complicated timeline. It's no easy feat to string together more than 14 games that generally have very few story connections and continuations. I don't claim to know anything, because nothing is absolute, and Nintendo has no official timeline explanation. I just want to give you a basic overview of how confusing it is. Originally, as we all know, on the Nintendo Entertainment System, there were only two Zelda games, The Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. The timeline at this point was very straightforward. Zelda 2 was a direct sequel, taking place a few seasons later, starring the same character Link, now a teenager or young adult. However, the Zelda in this game, who's under a sleeping spell, is reputedly not the same Zelda that Link rescued from Ganon at the end of the first game, as this Zelda has been asleep for millenniums. While fans waited anxiously for a third Zelda game, there never was a Zelda 3, but what we got on the Super Nintendo was a prequel, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This game came out 4 years after Zelda 2, and it far succeeded our expectations. It went back to the original format, but made drastic improvements, adding a new Light World Dark World system, and making the game's plot much more involved. For the first time in a Zelda game, we are told the history of Hyrule. In the beginning, three gods of wisdom, courage, and power create the land of Hyrule and leave behind a symbol of their power, the Triforce. It remains hidden away in a golden land where legends say anyone who finds it, all their wishes will come true. However, it's found by a thief by the name of Ganondorf Dragmire, and because of his evil nature, it transforms him into the monster we know as Ganon and the Golden Land into the Dark World. While he rules this Dark World, he also tries to take over Hyrule, but 7 wise men seal the gate to the Dark World and trap Ganon inside. Now that's all backstory. Now as the game begins, the evil wizard Aghanim has taken over Hyrule Castle and uses the life force of the 7 maidens to break the seal, to free Ganon. The 7 maidens are the descendants of the 7 wise men, and the last in line is Princess Zelda. The main objective of this game is for Link to defeat Aghanim and then go to the Dark World to rescue the 7 maidens and ultimately face Ganon. Now on the Game Boy we were given Link's Awakening, which was the first portable Zelda game. It seems to take place right after A Link to the Past, treating it as its own new series of games, or either ignoring the original 2 or I don't know. Now, let's move on to the Nintendo 64, the first 3D Zelda game and the biggest, most anticipated yet, the Ocarina of Time. To my dismay, this game was another prequel. Upon release, it was announced as the earliest point in the timeline, and this is where all notions of Link to the Past being the first were shattered. Shigeru Miyamoto, the man responsible for all these great games, did an interview with Nintendo Power sometime before the release of the Ocarina of Time, and this is what he said. Ocarina of Time is the first story, then the original Legend of Zelda, then Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, and finally A Link to the Past. It's not very clear where Link's Awakening fits in. It could be any time after Ocarina of Time. Now, whoa, I'm nobody to argue. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't doubt the man himself, but how is Link to the Past the last? I had a hard time accepting that any game would take place before it, but now it's the last? Well then, why is it called Link to the Past? If it was meant to be the end, why wouldn't it be called Link to the Future? Let's remember when there were only 3 Zelda games, The Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, and Link to the Past. Was there any doubt that Link to the Past took place before the other 2 games? Even the back of the box says it starred the predecessors of Link and Zelda from the NES games. As the game begins, Zelda telepathically speaks to Link's uncle while Link remains in bed. She says, "Please help me. I am a prisoner in the dungeon of the castle. My name is Zelda." By introducing herself in this manner, it seems to set the tone as a prequel. Link's uncle tries to rescue her first, but when he dies, he passes his sword on to Link and tells him basically he's the new hope. It's easy to assume that this is Link's first adventure, but with all the new games, it's all screwed up and open for debate. The title Link to the Past could very well not be referring to the character Link at all. While it's undoubtedly a play on words, it could be totally referring to a link as in a connection, a chain of events. So, what event from the past can it be linking to? The Ocarina of Time? Okay, fair enough, but one problem. To believe that means to assume that they already had Ocarina of Time planned out back then, and that's playing a George Lucas. So, what right do I have to argue with Miyamoto? I don't. However, I can offer 3 explanations to why he says Link to the Past goes at the end. 1. He was being interviewed, and he was caught on the spot, so it could have been a simple mistake. 2. Link to the Past was once a prequel, but its place in the timeline changed, so his quote somehow correct. 3. It's just a game, so who gives a shit? So, let's get back to the Ocarina of Time. While it has to be a different Link and Zelda, it definitely seems to take place at the beginning. In fact, it seems to take place during the imprisoning war of the Link to the Past backstory and the origin of Ganon. During most of the game, he's in human form as Ganondorf, and at the end, he actually transforms into Ganon right in front of you. In Link to the Past, Link is usually compared to the legendary hero of time, meaning he's carrying on the tradition of the old Link from Ocarina of Time, or that could just be a legend, whatever. Now, once I got over the fact that this is yet another prequel, it also involves time travel, which just makes it even more complicated. In a similar fashion to Link to the Past's Dark World, Light World system, Link here travels between his childhood and 7 years in the future, where Ganondorf has taken over Hyrule. So, you get to play as both young Link and adult Link. Young Link basically skips over his childhood to become adult Link and defeat Ganon at the end. However, Zelda sends Link back to being young Link so he can have a chance to live the skipped 7 years of his childhood. Now, a second Zelda game for the Nintendo 64 was released, Majora's Mask. This one is a sequel to Ocarina of Time, but wait, not a sequel to the end where adult Link defeats Ganon, no, it's a sequel to young Link after he got sent back. So now, any speculation of Nintendo ever making a sequel to Zelda 2 is deader than shit. They can't even make a sequel that follows in consecutive order. Instead, they just keep going back, and then maybe taking a small step up again, and then back again. we have a sequel to the original, a prequel to the original, a sequel to the prequel, a prequel to the prequel, and a sequel to the young Link of the prequel's prequel. What the fuck? At this point, if you want to try to make any sense out of this whole thing, then you just go right ahead, but not me.